are those of the commenters alone. They do not represent the views or opinions of Valley News Live, our parent company, or our advertisers.
With us now live in studio, Nathan Burseth. He is a member or director of the Mindac Upstream Coalition. Thanks for being here. I want to talk about the federal lawsuit in a moment. First, just your thoughts on my opening segment about these films. Do they help stop racism in your opinion, or just exacerbate it?
I think they can't hurt racism. You know, I think it allows the younger generation to realize what some of the blacks, Native Americans went through, what's going on today. So I don't think it hurts their cause.
I mean, for me, watching this film, you know, and again, I feel like I do my homework on history, but to see it there and watch what these people have gone through during the 50s, I mean, that's not that long ago.
Our parents, you know, in living color. I mean, it puts a story to it, names to it, and rather than just read it in the history books. It was moving for me. Let's move on to this federal lawsuit. So, you know, you and I have talked before. Obviously, this project's been going on now, it seems like forever. So what was the straw, if you will, that broke the camel's back, where you guys finally said, you know what, we got to file a federal lawsuit? Well, I don't know if there was one straw, but I think it was just a culmination of things that took place and not having a voice in any of it, you know. And last Monday, I give Darrell Venue credit. He came down to Christine, but none of the questions were answered. You know, here we're sitting there, they want to start in the spring of 2014 with this ring dike around Bakke and Oxbow and Hickson. We don't have anything answered, and they're not listening to us. You know, this is the last. We were putting our walls against the back, and we had to do it. But you say you don't have a voice in it. I mean, there's now a ring dike going around Oxbow. Clearly, they were starting to give people a voice south of town. They didn't, though. You know, Bakke voted on this, and they said, no, we don't want this. You know, so the point is, we don't have a voice in it. I want to find out if you've had a chance to visit, or at least what you're hearing from our congressional delegation. I think a lot of people say this is a big move, because is this thing ever going to get done now? Because obviously you guys can file lawsuits. You got the Minnesota side, which we're going to talk about in a second. So what are you hearing from Congressman Collin Peterson, Heidi Heitkamp, John Hoeven, and those people? Well, I think the North Dakota side is saying Fargo's got to work with us. This thing's not going to happen. This is going to be Garrison diversion all over again. They're going to pour millions of dollars into this. Fargo's going to sit here with no flood protection. Moorhead's got the flood protection. Put the money into ring dikes and levees for in-city protection. Protect what you have right now. You know, on the Minnesota side, I think the DNR is going to come out and say, this dam isn't going to happen. If this project sits as it is today, it's not happening. And so unless they make some changes, they're going to move forward and continue to spend millions of dollars per month on engineering costs. And the Diversion Authority, the DNR is probably going to come out next July or sometime next year, middle of the year, and say, this is the way it is. We're not allowing for this. Minnesota's going to say, but does the DNR? So then, yeah, the DNR. Excuse me. So then, but won't the Army Corps of Engineers be able to trump the DNR? No. They need a permit from the DNR in order to dam up the Red River. Even though the Army Corps of Engineers is federal, that's correct, they can not trump the Minnesota DNR? That is correct. Is that based on what? Just some precedents? Or? Well, that's based on what the DNR is telling us, based on what the Corps of Engineers is telling us. The Corps is telling us the same thing. They need that DNR permit. And you're saying they're not going to get that? I don't think so. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking is the DNR is going to say no to this project as it sits. It's too much damage in Minnesota, and there's no benefit. There's absolutely no benefit in Minnesota. Moorhead's protected themselves. I want to get to a quote that was in your guys' press release today. It says, we trust that if the Corps provides accurate information to Congress, a cost-effective project can be authorized and completed sooner than currently projected. This quote to me presumes that what you guys are saying is, hey, the Corps is lying to Congress. Well, the Corps isn't following FEMA's numbers. The Corps created their own numbers. When we were out in D.C., a few of the staffers said, well, it seems like they're cooking the books. That's not our words. That's their words. They're cooking the books to make this cost-benefit ratio work. Whose staffer said that? I don't remember what staffer it was. It was a transportation staffer. And they said, you know, it looked like they're cooking the books. They're not using FEMA numbers. Corps went and used their own numbers. They went and looked at years that benefited them rather than looking at all the years. They took the wet years rather than look at the whole historical picture. So again, are you saying that they're lying to Congress? Well, I think they're fudging. And I think when Congress hears about this lawsuit, I think when Congress looks at this and says, wait a second, we're spending $800 million on a project that wasn't the Corps' original plan, $800 million on a project that they have opposition to. We have 90-some projects that have been authorized but haven't been funded or started, and we have a no new projects provision in law. This is a new project. It's not. It can't receive funding because it's in federal law that there's no new projects that can move forward. So here's the big thing that jumps out to me. You know, there's this big conversation right now nationally about, hey, the GOP's missing the boat by saying, hey, we're going to repeal Obamacare because that's their only strategy. The thing I don't see here is, okay, you're trying to quote unquote repeal the FM diversion project, but what are you going to replace it with? Well, first, I don't know if the onus should be on us, you know, but Fargo said plans.
But here's the thing, if you don't come up with a better plan, it isn't easy for Fargo to go, hey.
That's true, but there are plans out there. You know, they've never looked at having a diversion with upstream retention. Now, we know upstream retention won't protect up to 500 years alone. We know the diversion would, but then you have downstream impacts. Look at upstream retention, which Colin Peterson's been talking about, upstream retention with the diversion, and we think it can be taken care of.
But you're saying, hey, that's not the onus on us. If it's not you guys, who should it be?
We're high and dry. It should be Fargo, looking at, you know, basin-wide, or looking at protection that doesn't, you know, have so many casualties in this.
But I think that's what Fargo's saying. Hey, if we don't do this, then we're not protected. You guys are going to have to deal with your own issue. We've already got the Corps to sign off on this thing.
Well, the Corps has signed off, but there's a lot of other hoops to jump through. Of course, the Corps is going to sign off on this. It's money in their pocket. It's like going to an engineer and saying, here's the money, approve this. Well, they're going to sign up, but there's other checks and balances. But my point is, there are other alternatives out there. There are alternatives out there that can protect Fargo. May not protect for future development, but it'll protect the existing city. You know, if it's a flood-prone area, should we be building in a swamp area to begin with? Probably not.
I think you and I'd agree with that, but you're saying, hey, the onus, even though it's going to hinder us, it's not on us to go up with a better plan.
It shouldn't be, but we have come up with one. You know, we've taken the Red River Basin Commission studies. We looked at a lot of studies and compiled them and said, here's the studies. You know, why don't you look at those?
All right.
The Corps has ignored that.
You guys had your press conference today in Breckenridge. We've got a clip of you, some of the comments that you made in Breckenridge I want to play for you, and just to get your feedback on, if we can play this clip from Breckenridge today, please.
It is you. I guess I've known this for the longest time.
I should have known. I should have known.
I realize, of course, if you'd been wrong, Clark Kent would have been killed.
I mean, look at that.
Blank?
It is a spitting image. I love that. It is
No,
you.
no. What is, I heard when you were quarterback, they didn't call you Chris Berg, they called you Chris Everett. You threw like Chris Everett.
No, they actually called
that's
me
what I was told.
Chachi back in the day.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to verify that.
Anything else you want to share with us?
No, I think I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. It'd be interesting to see how this thing plays out. Obviously, a federal lawsuit, you know, you can go out there and you can try these different lawsuits and whatnot. Now I'm curious to see, and I want to hear from you, I guess, real quick, what's Fargo's next move in this chess match?
You know, I don't know. What
would you guess?
I knew, I think they'll sit back and let the Corps, you know, because it's the Corps. We're suing the Corps, so they'll sit back and see what the Corps does. I saw that Aaron Schneider doesn't comment on lawsuits, so I'm sure they'll have their, you know, gaggle of attorneys look at this and send something back to the federal court in St. Paul, and we'll sit and find out. But I know what it does is it sends it to Congress and says, you know what, there's a lot of opposition to this thing. Why would we fund this when there's all this opposition? I think that's what it does.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Stay with us. We're going to get to your point of view when we come back. As always, be sure and join our conversation. You can go to our website, 630pov.com. As you can see here in a second, you can email us, text us, use that Twitter thing. We will be right back.